So a while back, I did an article on our 1962 Mini Cooper here, and I said I was going to try to be good about doing some vlogging on the car, doing some videos about it, and I hate to admit that I've kind of failed at that, but there's a reason. So it's really hard to do video updates on a car or on a project when there's really nothing to report, and that's kind of unfortunately the situation we're in with our Mini right now. So I got the engine pulled out of the car. That was super easy. Started rebuilding the subframe. Decided the engine's got quite a few oil leaks. Let's go ahead and take it apart and reseal the whole thing. So I went ahead and started tearing it apart. Everything was going super great, super smooth. Got the cylinder head off, and I decided, you know what, we should do the liquid test on the valves to see how they seal. Make sure we're getting a good seal because A-series BMC engines are known to have problems with eating up valve seats and valves. So I went ahead and did the test and discovered that unfortunately um, two of our exhaust valves were leaking really, really bad. Um, Cylinders 2 and 3, I went ahead and pulled the valves out after I did the test, and yeah, they were just super pitted up. The valve seats were looking really rough, and the valves themselves were pretty rough. Nothing that a valve job couldn't fix though. So we discussed it and decided let's go ahead and just order all the parts to do it, have the job done, and do it right. Uh, Finding parts for this car has been interesting. There's a lot of minis out there. There aren't a whole lot of Mini Cooper 997s. They didn't make these cars for very long before they switched to the 998, and then later they went with the larger engines. But um, finding the valves was definitely a fun challenge. I found a company in the UK that claimed to have all the parts we needed, though, and so I put it in an order. It took them about a week to ship it, and incredibly, it shipped really, really fast. I was pretty impressed with that. Once I got all the parts, I took everything over to a machine shop that's just down the street from here. The guy specializes mainly in building race engines, but he does head work, and I figured, well, if you can build a race car engine, you can definitely do the cylinder head work on a Mini. So I took the head to him. He looked at it, said, yeah, he could do it. But he was backlogged. I called around to a few shops here in Boise, and most everyone was booked way out. So I figured, okay, just have him do it. I mean, he's close by and he seems to know what he's doing. Um, so fast forward a few weeks, and he gives me a phone call and he says, hey, I was getting ready to start on your head and discovered that the uh, the intake valves you have are the wrong size. So I went over and he showed me, and sure enough, the intake valves were not the same size as what was in the head. So I thought, well, maybe the head had been redone in the past and they put larger valves in it. But he gave me all the specs on the size of the valves. And so I went, and we have a book that's on Mini Coopers and has all the dimensions on everything, and checked. And the valves that were in there were definitely the correct size. They were the original size. I don't remember the number off the top of my head right now. But the new valves that we had were not the right size. They were too small, and they were definitely not for a 997. The website or the company we ordered them from, they had them listed as 997 valves. So I checked with them, and they checked the numbers on everything, and sure enough, they had their listing incorrect. They had 998 valves or some, I don't know what, but they had the wrong valves listed as the 997s. Um, Unfortunately, they didn't have the right size 997 valves. So I had to do some more digging. I finally found the correct size based off of the size that the machinist gave me, and ordered them. And so then those arrived, and so I went ahead and took those over to him. And of course, in that time period, he had some more projects come in, so it was going to be another wait before he finally would get around to doing the work. He did check that all of the parts we had in terms of the valves were the right size. So fast forward a few more weeks, and he calls me up and says, hey, we have another problem. Turns out that the cutter I have for cutting out the valve seats to put the hardened valve seats in for the exhaust, I don't have the right size bit. And he says, you have two options. We can regrind the existing seats and just run them, or you can come get the head and try to find someone that has the bit. Um, I figured, well, we have the hardened seats. We don't have unleaded fuel anymore. I don't really want to run additives in it. I'd like to be able to just fill it up and go. So I went ahead and took the head. I called around, and there's actually another machine shop that specializes in race engines that's just a little further down from where we're at. And they said they'd be happy to do it, and that they were confident they could do the work. So I took the cylinder head over to them. They inspected it. Discovered in the process of inspecting it that the hardened valve seats that we have are not the right size. So intake and exhaust valves are correct, but the seats were not correct. Anyways, since they specialize in race engines as well, they told me they could go ahead and order just kind of a generic set of seats that would fit in the cylinder head and then cut them to match our valves. Of course, they're backlogged too, so it's still sitting there waiting for the work. I stopped in there yesterday to see if there was any update and to see if they'd let us come and do a video of their facility. Unfortunately, they don't want to let anyone in to do videos because they have a lot of projects going, and I'm sure there's some concern about safety stuff there, and that's fine. It's okay. I mean, it's a cool facility. They have really awesome equipment, but they're still waiting on the seats to arrive. But they said hopefully in the next few days those parts will arrive, and then hopefully here soon they can get started on it. So there has not been any update on the Mini. So that's why I haven't done any new videos on it. I was feeling bad about it, so I thought I better go ahead and make a quick video and kind of explain what happened. But since we're in the shop right now, I thought I'd show you some of our other cars, other things I've been working on. And the one I'm actually going to go ahead and switch over to in terms of doing some videos, I'll show you here in a sec. But let's take a quick walk around the shop here real quick. I don't know if you'll be able to see it very well, but this is our latest purchase. This is a 1965 Morgan Plus 4 four-seater. So we've actually known this car for a long time. A buddy of ours has owned the car most of its life. He bought it probably like 40 years ago and restored it himself. He did a beautiful job. It's an exceptional car. Unfortunately, he's getting older, and so he can't get in and out of it very easily. And so it's sat for the last probably like 5 or 6 years. So it's needing service. Really, the biggest thing is that the Stromberg Zenith carburetors need to be rebuilt. Now, this being a 65 means that it has the TR4A engine, so it's got a lot of pep. It's very, very nice to drive, other than the carbs having some issues. They're leaking air. The shafts, I think, are worn out, so it's going to need new shafts and bushings. But once you get it started, it runs quite nice, and I mean, it has plenty of power to keep up in modern traffic. It's a beautiful car. We'll do some videos on it, just kind of showing what it is, and maybe go drive it around or something in a video. If we come over this way, yeah, so this project's kind of stalled just because I need to get some other things done in the shop here so I have some room, because our 911 here needs its engine dropped. So it has been leaking a lot of oil. I did a ton of work resealing what I could. I did the timing cover, the timing chain cover boxes. I resealed those. You can do those with the engine in. I replaced a whole bunch of seals, did the oil return tubes. Pretty much any seal you can do on the bottom of the engine with the engine in, I've done. And it helped a ton. It really did help it a ton. We were still leaking some oil, and so I did some investigating. I popped the valve covers back off, and it looks like our rocker arms are leaking oil. So I'm going to have to drop the engine. It's not a huge thing to do. It's not like a full rebuild or anything. The engine's got great compression. Everything seems really healthy with it. So we just got to do those rockers, those rock arms, so they seal up better, so we're not leaking oil out of those. And then this car, I think, will be ready to be a daily driver. There's a lot of other things that need to be done on it, but nothing too serious other than resealing it. You definitely won't be able to see this project right now that's over here. I'll come and see if I can stand behind it. Duck down a little bit. There we go. So this is our Caterham Super Sprint 1700. We've actually had this car for a couple years now. It runs and drives great. It's a sweet car. Unfortunately, last year, one of the fuel lines ruptured by the carburetors, and blew fuel everywhere, and it caught on fire. Thankfully, Jesse was able to get the car shut off and the fire put out almost immediately. So it didn't really do any significant damage to anything. It maybe just colored the aluminum a little bit on the bonnet and melted a couple of the wire jackets. I went ahead and peeled all the wiring back all the way to the cockpit. None of the wiring was damaged, just some of the tape was. So redid the whole tape job on it all the way from the firewall forward. So it's great now. I still run into some issues with the timing. These engines are, the engine in this car is very, very high strung. And so timing, it's very finicky when it comes to timing. And if it's not just right, it has a hard time running as well as it should. It runs great. It's not quite what it can be. And so I got to spend some time tinkering with that. It's a lot of trial and error, getting the timing perfect on it. I'm probably, like I said, like a half a degree or something off. But I'll get that dialed in, and then it'll be fun to drive again. This is the project I've been investing most of my time in right now while we wait on mini stuff. I'm going to do some videos on it, kind of showing what all we've done and what we still need to do. So this is a 1962 Lotus 7 America. We purchased this car out of a barn in New Jersey. There was a set of 3 cars. Well, the Mini Cooper was with this car, and then a Lotus Elan that we sold on the site, we auctioned. This car is really, really cool. It's been sitting for a super long time, so it needs a lot of stuff to be ready to be on the road. So someone has painted it multiple times, so we've stripped off what remnants of the paint there are on it. I still need to finish doing that. I've got the engine going. I'm gonna, like I said, I'll do a video talking about what it took to get it running. Not a huge project actually, but to get that started back up. But we wanted to clean up all of the frame rails and tubes, so the interior panels have come out, so we can get in here and clean up all the frame rails, make sure everything's nice and solid and is super clean. And then we'll put it all back together. But like I said, I'll do a video on it that's just dedicated to it, because I mean it's a big project, but it's a really, really cool car. But so those are the main things I've been working on. I guess I should mention the Daimler SP250 that's sitting right here. I don't know if you can see it very well. I haven't been working on it lately. It runs and drives great. Jesse has been doing a few things to it, so I don't really know what its current status is, if I'm being honest, other than I know it runs and drives because I was the one that got it running and driving again. But we haven't been doing much with it other than just enjoying it right now. But we'll talk more about it, I'm sure, later as Jesse does whatever he's doing on it. We'll see. But yeah, that's kind of what we got going on right now. Like I said, I'm going to do some videos on the Lotus 7, and I might do some on the 911. I think that might be a fun one to do some videos on. But be sure to hit that notification bell so that you get notified when we have new videos. That way, when I get some projects done here, you can hear about it. Also, feel free to leave some comments down in the comment section. Honestly, guys, I really need some motivation to get out here and do videos. It's a lot more time to do the videos. And if you guys would leave me some encouraging words, I suppose, down in the comments, that might help me get motivated to do it. And if you have any questions about any of the cars, or you want to see anything specific on any of the cars, leave those down in the comments, and I'll do my best to try to get you a video that kind of goes over whatever your question is. Yeah, thanks for joining me today here in the shop.